jumping anybody, so make your choice right.
Select to make your first pick. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Choose and pick the best one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
2020 was a great year for One Piece, where we got a lot of twists and turns with Oden's flashback getting aspects of what the One Piece really is, as well as the beginning of the end of Wano with the worst generation fighting against the Yonko, and most importantly, we got Roger laughs. I do really believe that Wano should be over in the next year or two with the fights finishing up, a couple flashbacks here or there, but we are definitely in the climax and things are about to get really bumpy. But what does 2021 have in store for us? And well, that is the point of today's video, where I will try to make some bold predictions on what will happen in One Piece this year. You know the drill by now.
You may feel powerless now, but soon you will watch the fear in men's eyes. As captain of my furies, your fame will spread throughout the universe. You will see the fiercest warriors flee your presence. Armies brought to their knees, entire nations crumble at the mere mention of your name. You will know power you would have never known on Earth. Never again will you be lost. From now on, you will be at my side, forever mine, forever Darkseid.
And coming in at number 10 is Shanks makes a move. This one's a little cheating because Oda Sensei himself kind of said this himself, but we all know that Oda is very bad with timing. He'll say something will happen next year and it doesn't happen for a couple. But this one is very interesting because this is the Four Emperors saga, and we know that Big Mom and Kaido are the main antagonists of Wano, and Blackbeard is doing his own thing outside of Wano, going after something the Navy wants or whatever's going on with him. But Shanks is the only one that has yet to even do anything besides go to the Gorosei and warn them of a certain pirate. Many think it's Blackbeard, and I'm pretty sure the Gorosei were like, whatever, we have other things to take care of. So I think Shanks is finally going to take matters into his own hands, and also because there is a possible alliance between two emperors, and Shanks seems to be a guy who likes balance and wants to make sure that everything is fine and maintain that balance. I think Shanks himself might intervene with this alliance and do something about it, because this is not an issue with just Luffy, but it actually pertains to the whole world and could damage and even destroy it. So Shanks showing up in Wano isn't too far-fetched, because he definitely is a character that would want to stop something like this before it gets out of hand, as seen at the end of Marineford War when he went there to stop it. Also, Oda did say that this war in Wano is going to be a lot bigger than Marineford, and the thing that made Marineford so cool was that there were so many factions and sides to the story that weren't just Luffy. There was Aces, there's the Marines, there's the Whitebeard Pirates, there was Blackbeard, and even Shanks himself. There were so many things and so many twists and turns that really made the arc special. But there is also another possibility, and that is Shanks intervening and fighting Blackbeard while everything is going on in Wano. How nuts would that be that while Luffy's fighting two emperors, Shanks and Blackbeard themselves are in a clash? And we know that Shanks is very worried of Blackbeard and his rise to power, and he has been keeping his eye, well, his good eye, on Blackbeard the entire time. So him intervening and fighting Blackbeard finally could possibly happen, and a lot of people think that Shanks will die to Blackbeard, but there's also a chance that maybe he just gets utterly defeated and he's crippled to the point where he can no longer continue his piracy, and he can still meet Luffy, but it's at his low point where he can no longer continue. But I don't think that's the case. I would like to actually see him enter Wano. We haven't seen any Roger representatives enter Wano. We have Whitebeard, we have Ace with his will and Oden's will and so on and so forth. But we don't really have any Roger pirates that spent a lot of time with Oden. And we know that Shanks had a very special relationship, or at least a close relationship, with Oden within that first year or only year that they were together. And because there is not just one emperor that the Straw Hats and the Alliance have to deal with, but two with Big Mom, she is a very unpredictable character, and Shanks could be the one that could distract her while everyone else is fighting Kaido, possibly. But either way, I'm very excited to see what Shanks has in store, and with Oda himself even saying that he's gonna make his move, I'm very excited. But Oda isn't really good with time. He might say it's gonna happen this year, but it could happen next year and maybe in a couple years. We're not so sure, as seen with other statements like the Lurking Legend. And speaking of the Lurking Legend, lurking in your mother's shadow. Coming in at number 9 is that the lurking legend will finally appear. Oda has made this statement, I think about 2 years ago, saying that there would be a lurking legend that is connected to Whitebeard that will be the greatest adversary that the Straw Hats have ever faced in Wano, and we have yet to see who that lurking legend is. Some people thought it would be Imu-sama, but Imu-sama is back in Mary Jo, and that's going to be, although that person is a lurking legend, they're not really going to be a force the Straw Hats will face just yet, and I don't think they're related to Whitebeard in any way. And if it was Kaido, then like he would have just said they're going to fight Kaido and things are going to be crazy, but I don't think it's Kaido. I of course think it's going to be Dwayne The Rock Johnson, aka Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Although little is known about Rocks, many people are expecting him to return to the story because all we know about him is that he was defeated and his crew was left in ruins during God's Valley incident. Sengoku did mention that he perished along with the island, even though the island itself vanished from the face of the map. And we all know as One Piece fans, if you don't see them dead, they're probably not dead. And seeing how the Rock Pirates are forming slowly with Big Mom and Kaido making an alliance, we might even see other former members make an appearance in the story, maybe even Shiki, as well as Miss Bakken and her son Weevil, who I've seen a cool theory, by the way, that Weevil might actually be instead the actual son of Shiki, and that's kind of interesting. I just wanted to throw that in there even though there's no relevance, but I digress. I think now with Wano coming to its climax, he should be rearing his head once again. Maybe it might happen at the end of Wano, but I think it's more of a matter of when rather than if, and I cannot wait for this legendary figure to rear his head again. And now can you smell what The Rock is cooking? And coming in at number 8 is, I believe, Oden's journal will be fully revealed. And what I mean by that is that the contents of the journal will be revealed before being destroyed once and for all. I think it will probably end up being burned or something by the end, or once Kaido and his men figure out that Oden's journal is out there and exists, I think they will try to capture it for themselves and unlock the secrets. And I do believe that we're gonna find the contents of the journal in full. I don't think that Oden wrote exactly what the One Piece is or what the Will of D is, but I do think it's gonna have heavy hints on them, and it's gonna give us some answers, but it's also gonna give us some questions, because that journal is going to be very important in Wano, with Yamato concerning his Bible and giving it to Momonosuke as it being the final or the only thing that Oden left behind besides his children. I think a lot of information will be revealed, and we might even see that he wrote one final thing in his journal right before his death that's going to be very important to the story, maybe even the downfall of Kaido and his men. Information about the world and even the world government might be in that journal, and most importantly, I mentioned this in a video previously, it might even have the location of the final road poneglyph. Now we are going to sneakily head outside of Wano and see what's going on in the world. And coming in at number 7, I believe we're gonna see the SSG revealed, the new fighting force that has replaced the Warlord system, also known as the Special Science Group. Little is known about these weapons, but they're powerful enough to replace the 7 Warlords of the Sea, which had characters like the strongest swordsman in the world, Dracul Mihawk. Similar to the Pacifistas, they might be superhumans equipped with cybernetic equipment, but far more advanced, maybe even having other Devil Fruit features, not just from Kizaru, but from Akainu and possibly other Admiral. Maybe they even might have the ability to fly. The possibilities are endless, but all we know is they are very, very powerful things. Seeing as how the world is getting thrown into utter chaos with the warlords being abolished and the emperors Big Mom and Kaido forming an alliance at the worst possible time, it seems as though we might see the SSG in play sooner rather than later. And sliding right back into Wano is another bold prediction: Kurozumi Orochi is alive. Now listen, I would love for Orochi to be dead and Kaido killing him. That would be awesome and real twist and surprise, but let's be honest, it's Oda, and a 8-headed snake getting beheaded doesn't sit right with me. Orochi still does have a few plot lines like Hiyori, the Scabbards, as well as Momonosuke. In the myth of the Orochi, they are not known for regrowing heads, they aren't hydras, but I believe if you cut all 8 of their heads, they can truly be dead, and I think that's the case for Orochi, where he just has extra lives, or his head was just a fake snake head. Orochi is a very cautious man, so I feel like he is a character that should have saw this coming and always has a backup plan. He is the most paranoid character we've seen in the series thus far, and that paranoia is actually a good thing because it allowed Orochi to prepare and plan for future events. His cautiousness is actually his best asset. And coming in at number 5 is, well, I guess this is a little ironic, Gear 5th will be revealed, or at least a new gear will be revealed, maybe a new variant of Gear 4th. Luffy has been training relentlessly, and it's not out of the norm for Luffy to think of a new form to utilize in battle. This new gear might utilize Rio as the main focus, and might not be as exhausting as his other gear, Gear 4th, when it comes to Haki. It's also possible that this new gear could utilize some elemental abilities. We have seen Luffy in the past use elemental attacks like his Red Hawk, recently the Red Rock, as well as his L Thor that uses electricity. And that isn't out of the norm. We have seen characters in the past utilize these elements in their fighting styles like Brook, Sanji, and Marigold by setting herself on fire. I do not think that he will unlock Awakening just yet because the focus of this arc has been armament Haki the entire time. He might unlock it later on, but it won't be fully utilized until later arcs, maybe possibly against Blackbeard, whose main focus of fighting is Devil Fruit oriented. He might have even learned a technique to go through his gears in fast succession, maybe something like a gear shift. A way for him to transition into Tank Man to Snake Man to Bound Man in fast succession, depending on the situation. And he is gonna have to, no pun intended, go to the next gear if he truly intends to defeat the Emperors. And speaking of power-ups, coming in at number 4, Roronoa Zoro achieves a Black Blade. Maybe even 2. It has been hinted and foreshadowed that Zoro will achieve a Black Blade at some point in the story, with Mihawk telling him that he too can make this happen. And with Tenguyama telling Zoro that if he could do that with Enma, he can make the blade even stronger and step it up a next level. Zoro is a part of the new generation and he will surpass the previous one for damn sure. He does wish to become the world's strongest swordsman, and by inheriting Oden's will in some sort of fashion by utilizing the Enma and fighting against Kaido, I do expect him to achieve a Black Blade. But I said earlier, it might not just be one sword, but it might be 2, because we also learned that Wado Ichimonji was also crafted by the same swordsman, and he's had the Wado Ichimonji for much longer. We don't know the steps of achieving a Black Blade, but Zoro, with Oden using 2-sword style and Zoro using 3-sword style, him achieving a Black Blade with 2, maybe all 3 of his blades at some point, would make him a superior swordsman than Oden. And by doing something that Oden wasn't able to do, and that's defeating Kaido, I think that is a very much a possibility. He is supposed to surpass his predecessors, as well as surpass all the swordsmen that's currently living on the planet if he wishes to become the world's strongest swordsman. And walking right back into the outside world once again, coming in at number 3, Boa Hancock or Sabo are currently captured. Another one of Oda's DuckTales that he said was going to be expanded upon in 2020 was that Vivi, Boa Hancock, and Sabo are all in trouble at the moment, and we have yet to see what's going on, so I think we will see that in 2021. The world government did abolish the Shichibukai, so Boa Hancock and the other warlords are currently being hunted, and by process of elimination, I believe that Boa Hancock will be captured or is in serious trouble because she has the most to lose, and unfortunately she's not really doing much compared to the other warlords and doesn't have much going for her. And it would make a much more interesting story for Boa Hancock and her character if she were to relive her nightmares. Although I do not wish that upon her, I think it would be a lot more interesting for the story. I have already given my thoughts on Sabo, and I do not think he's actually captured or dead. In fact, I think he is being framed for killing King Cobra and possibly even kidnapping Vivi the princess. Also, I think that Julie Bonnie and him are working together because they had the same goal in rescuing Kuma, so they're probably all together at the moment. I just don't want to rehash a Marineford war, but instead it's with Sabo and they have to go rescue him, and they're battling against Dragon, the Revolutionary Army, but this time Luffy is successful. But although I don't want that, doesn't mean it might not happen. We know Imu-sama wants Vivi for some nefarious purpose. We're not exactly sure what that is, but I think that'd be very interesting that maybe Sabo saw something that he wasn't supposed to, and maybe Vivi as well, and maybe he rescued her. And there was someone else that saw the entire situation go down, and I believe that was Wapple. I'm not exactly sure. We know his history with Alabasta, so once that is fully fleshed out, we will find out what exactly happened to them. That's my predictions with what's going on with those three as of right now. I could be totally wrong, or I could be totally right. We'll just have to wait and see. And speaking of trouble, coming in at number 2 is that a major character will die. I'm not gonna lie, I was very disappointed that none of the Scabbards were dead, not even one of them during chapter 1000, but it is what it is. I think for Oda to make Wano bigger and better than Marineford War, there has to be some important characters that have to die. We've seen Whitebeard and Ace die in Marineford War, and it has shaken the world to its core and its readers, and the effects of that arc is still felt to this very day. Maybe Law. I don't think Law would die. I think he's gonna find the secrets of the One Piece before he dies, and he'll die in the final arc. So then the question is, who will die? Maybe it's X Drake. We did see Hawkins predict someone's fate, that they have a 1% chance of living till the next day. We don't know if that's Luffy. We don't know if that's Law. It could be Drake as a funny joke, because Drake did hear that and he's like, sucks to be that guy, and maybe it's him. What I'm saying is, this is a war, and there has to be some consequences and some fatalities to really show how important this battle really is. Whoever that character may be, I do believe a major character will die. Maybe not even in Wano, but outside of Wano. We'll just have to wait and see. And coming in at number 1, which is probably the most hyped up flashback besides the Void Century, and that is the God Valley incident, aka Kaido's flashback. I do believe we will see the God Valley incident because it is so intertwined with Kaido's past, and I think that this flashback might happen at the beginning of Act 4 to parallel the beginning of Act 3 being Oden's flashback. So starting Act 4 might be Kaido's flashback, and we might see and have some really big reveals, and so many people are excited because there's so many big names a part of this crew. Rocks, Kaido, Big Mom, Shiki, Whitebeard, the list goes on, and seeing how this pirate crew was formed and how they ended is going to be so fascinating, and also how Kaido came to Wano and what he was doing in the background, because although Oden's flashback was really good, Kaido was more in the background for most of that, and there's so many things I want to know about Kaido's story, why he wants to die, how he ended up having a daughter, who's his baby moms. Also, why did he have hostages? We actually have no idea why he's been keeping hostages or what's going on there, and what's his ties to Onigashima. There's just so much things that I'm very interested in Kaido and his character. But of course, I think most of us are more interested in God's Valley because there's so many things that came from that incident. Kaido getting his devil fruit, many people of that crew split up and forming their own, and most importantly, the fate of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, aka Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And of course, I think we all want to see Roger and Garp fight against Rocks and his pirate crew, and how that turned out and the fallout of that battle, while also getting a more in-depth look into Rocks and his character, and to see why he did what he did and how he was able to control this crew full of monsters.